As June Men's Health Month, our guest speaker will be Zac Seidler from Sydney University's Man Island project, speaking on key issues of men's health. Lodge Germania is donating $500 from its charity fund to Man Island, with a matching $500 Masonic hopefully, action grant. So Zac's talk will be videographed for sharing with other Masons via YouTube. So Zac, if I could ask you to rise. There you are.
To thank Colin for inviting me here tonight. It's been a long journey between myself and the Freemasons over the past couple of years. I was here probably last year, I think, having a chat with Andrew Fraser and the team to try to work out a way to work with you guys around improving men's mental health in Australia. I'm a psychologist and mental health researcher by trade. Don't get scared off by that. I know everything about all of you already, don't worry. I grow the beard just to stroke it in session. And I am really here tonight to talk to you about what you guys can do in your day-to-day with your mates, with your fathers or brothers, to try to understand what's going on in their lives and your lives and how to respond to it a bit better. So I've been working for quite a number of years trying to understand what the state of play looks like when it comes to men's mental health. And it's not looking too good in Australia these days. So I want to extend tonight a challenge to you to move beyond the handshakes and the lip service that we're all really good at. We're really good at professing that we're going to do something, and when the time comes, we'll make sure to help out. But when it comes to ourselves, we often don't know how to lend ourselves a hand once in a while. The chances are that many of you have or will experience some form of mental health issue in your lives. That is humanity. Yeah, it's not a matter of weakness. Depression is as common as is happiness in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, you don't live if you don't have downs, because that's what makes ups feel good, really, because you understand the difference between them. Anxiety, depression, it's about 1 in 8 men in Australia each year experience that, and then when you add that up, it becomes a pretty prevalent problem. I don't have to point out the startling facts to you all that 6 men a day in our country die by suicide. That's 6 wives burying their husbands, 6 sons burying their fathers, and it's a startling statistic, and it's increasing year on year, despite our best efforts. That amounts to about 2,000 men a year dying by suicide. And we now just found out, thanks to a Beyond Blue report, that 82 guys a day are calling ambulances to talk about mental health and try to seek help via the ambulance. And that led Julia Gillard, who now runs Beyond Blue, to say that this problem is 3 times worse than we ever thought. And we thought it was pretty bad before. So we're starting to come to terms with the extent of this issue. That serious end of the spectrum, when we're talking about mental health illness, mental illness, requires more attention. It requires more money, it requires more funding, it requires more focus. But often when we talk about that severe end of the spectrum, we forget that there are so many of us who just deal with the day-to-day stuff, that really gets brushed under the carpet. So it distances us from our own experiences. It makes it seem like only the really sick people need our help, that only some guys who are really down in the dumps are the ones that need a hand, rather than your average bloke who's fallen on tough times. And I'm sure all of us, at some point in this year probably, have had a day or a week or a month where we just felt like shit. And it's those times where we struggle to go, all right, maybe this isn't just going to pass. Maybe tomorrow won't, it won't just vanish out of thin air and we'll just be sweet. There are times when we have to actually act on this stuff. And that's what I want to profess to you today, is that it requires the idea that there is no tipping point necessarily. Yeah, we think of it like, when I talk in therapy to guys, I think of it like a bucket. Yeah, there's just water dripping 1 drop at a time. And if we don't empty it, it's just going to overflow. Yeah, and we often don't look at the bucket because we don't want to see where it's at. We don't want to admit where it's at. We don't want to know what's going on. and then suddenly out of nowhere, we're in crisis mode. Well, I want to stress to you tonight that we need to beat the crisis, not respond to it. If we beat the crisis and we act beforehand, it's much easier to respond and get better than it is to deal with it when we're really up shit creek. Because that's not the time to deal with any of this stuff. So I think about men's mental health the same way that I think about potholes. And just stay with me for a while here. So just imagine every day you're driving in your car and up ahead there's this pothole and you see it, you try to avoid it, but there's another car on the road, there's a pedestrian, and you just can't, and you shudder a bit, but you go on with your day, you get to work. Every day you drive 10, 20, 30, 50 times, and you keep driving over that pothole. And then eventually on the 51st time, your tyre bursts. And it's raining and you get out and you've got to get the jack out or call the NRMA if you're hopeless like I am, changing the tyres. And you go, all right, I need to call the council now. Yeah? It takes a crisis. It takes that moment where you just could have done something so many times to deal with that issue. You could have changed route. You could have done all of these different things. But you go, it'll be fine. I'll deal with it when I deal with it. And then it comes and you're standing in the rain, soaking, you're late for work, you've got to go pick up your kids, whatever it may be. And now you've got to deal with the crisis when you're really not set to deal with it. That's the worst time to deal with it. So it's taken really, when we look at men's mental health, this crisis of losing so many men, of dealing with so much depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress in our veterans, unemployment rates, all of this stuff is conspiring against us. And it's taken this crisis to go, oh crap, there's a pothole. We see it, now we need to fill it. So tonight we're here to start becoming aware of those potholes in our own lives before they take out our car, to prepare for the bumps in your life, and how you're going to respond to them. We need to consider what a relationship breakdown or losing your job is going to do for your outlook before it even happens. And that might seem really strange to consider, because you're not going to go, oh, how am I going to deal with the flu before I get the flu? But when it comes to this stuff about, the way that you are coping with the stresses of everyday life, we need to plan for how we're going to be able to respond to it if we're going to deal with it actively. How are you going to address those niggling feelings of self-doubt, self-criticism, despair that are present for all of us before they consume us? Because we never know what to expect, really, in the grand scheme of things. That's the way that life works. And if we're going to get anywhere near ending these unnecessary tragedies and the burden of illness that we deal with daily, we need to play to our strengths. Playing to your strengths, that's a saying that's thrown around in the sporting world all the time. But for some reason, when it comes to men's health, we do the exact opposite. Playing to your strengths means that the time to plan your recovery is when you're well. And that sounds really strange, I know. But to make truly meaningful change, the time to do that is when you're feeling on top of the world. Yeah? When you have the energy to fight and face your demons. But no one wants to do that. No rugby player wants to consider their retirement before they're there. No athlete wants to consider what an ACL rupture is going to do to their career before it's even happened. But you look at the rugby players that end up in rehab, it's the ones who have no backup plan. It's the ones who haven't worked through this process with anybody. They've just been in constant denial about the fact that that day will come. And they have to deal with that at some point. I've seen so many male clients. I had one this morning who called me and he said, "Don't worry, Zach, I had an awesome weekend, I'm sweet. I don't need to come see you this week." And I go, "Hurry up, get over here." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I go, "This is the time. You've been depressed for 3 months and I haven't been able to do anything with you. I can't talk to you because we're dealing with crisis. You're so far down that I'm just trying to, help you get out of the house. Now I can actually get you going to work and getting your performance up and feeling better about yourself. Now is the time to deal with your recovery when you're feeling well." It takes realizing that if we know our vulnerabilities, if we have a plan to deal with them, that's strength. That's masculinity, that's bravery, that's courage. Only recently have we seen a shift away from sporting champions like Greg Inglis and Buddy Franklin, and all of them are checking themselves into rehab for whatever reason, whether it be anxiety, alcohol, substance abuse. And they go, "I need to do this before it's too late." And that's unheard of 10 years ago. That would never have happened. And that's because they realize that their training, their strength, their physical prowess means nothing if they don't have their head in the game, if they don't understand their psyche and the way that they deal with their difficulties. And this is what masculinity can be for all of you guys. It's striving for self-betterment, to be able to provide for oneself, to be independent, strong and self-reliant, while also having the courage to face up to vulnerability. Because we've all got it. It's playing to your strengths, and that means understanding your weaknesses, not pretending that they don't exist. But it's not only men that need to embrace their strengths and their masculinity. The community in the mental health field is really not very good at dealing with this stuff. We pathologize masculinity. We say that, men don't talk and they only grunt and nod. Yeah, that's all that they do. Well, I sit in my clinic on Macquarie Street, and I get grunts and I get nods and I get I don't knows all the time. And many of them look like just like you guys, and I sit there and then I just wait. And eventually something happens, some strange process where that silence opens up a door, or I just talk like I normally do. I swear a bit, I crack some jokes. I'm not some crazy shrink who's wearing a lab coat that's gonna, ask you about your mother. There is diversity and difference and strength here. And so I let them tell their story, and every guy's got a story. Yeah, and they want to tell it. You just got to give them the right space. So what I'm finding out, speaking to men all across the country really, is that maybe we're doing it all wrong. They do seek help. Yeah, I've got a wait list of 3 months of guys who want to see me. They will seek help. They do seek help if you provide them with something that they want and that they need, rather than forcing them into this idea of what therapy should be, of what talking to somebody should be. It doesn't need to be your typical come and cry and lean on my shoulder. Let's get in there, let's talk about what the problem is, and let's find a solution. There's nothing wrong with that. It's therapy. That's what I do. So, for too long, mental health difficulties have been framed as weakness. That's why guys won't go and see a psych or a psychiatrist, because apparently you only do that if you're stuck up shit creek. But men don't need to leave their masculinity at the door. We need it. We want it. Their fear of weakness, their pressure to provide for their family, and I know that lots of you guys feel this day in, day out. That's why we go to work every morning, to get our kids through school, whatever it may be. It's a deeply ingrained feeling that they would unthinkingly take a bullet for their daughter or their son or their best mate. That's courage, that's bravery, and that's enough strength to work with. We've got these reserves, we need to use them as coping strategies, not as a means to shy away from our difficulties. This gender box that we're creating and trying to stuff all these guys into just isn't working, and that's because we don't fit. Yeah, look around this room. We're all totally different, but you're all drawn together by, lots of common qualities. But you all come from totally different places, different histories, different times, and nonetheless, we see that there are these shared ideas about how we want to live our lives, and that's what we need to use to our advantage. A dad who stays at home and cries to a Disney movie with his daughter is the same and as strong a man as a guy who goes out and drinks a VB at the pub with his mates. There are just different types of masculinity going around, and we just need to open that box up, I think. And these stereotypes about men are just as dangerous as stereotypes about mental health or, about psychological help seeking, whatever it may be. There's all of these ideas that are made up of crap. It's just not true, and we need to start to break those down, and that comes from sharing our vulnerabilities, from discussing who we've seen, what we've seen. Guys are really good at talking about the physiotherapist that they've seen. Yeah, I've got this bum knee, I saw this guy, he gave me this massage, was feeling great, everything's fine. I have never sat at a party and some dude come up to me and talk to me about the psychologist he's seen. I'm hoping my clients go and talk in parties about how good I am. But I'm not sure that it actually happens. And that's what we need to work towards. Oh, I saw this guy, he's awesome, you should go and see him. That's how we break down stigma. That's how we understand we've all got a story and no one needs to shy away from this stuff. Don't keep pretending that these potholes don't exist. We've all got them. Let's not pretend, there's no point. Let's plan a different route or just fix the road altogether. Let's adapt to the situation and play to our strengths. And it's time we realise that mental health treatment isn't here, to take you deeper into the depths. It's to give you the tools to get you back out again. Yeah, that's what I always say in my assessment sessions. Everyone thinks that we're there to mine into your childhood, to make everything dark and depressing. No, I'm here to give you the tools to get you out. I don't want to sit in there with you. I'll come down and I'll pull you back out. We've got to do it together. We're here to make you the man that you want to be. Yeah? So talk about the little things. Don't just brush them off or mask them or numb them, as lots of us do, or avoid them, because that's not what masculinity is. That's not what manhood is. It's much easier to overcome. We all aim for self-betterment, to get faster, stronger, smarter. So let's embrace that desire and build up that strength within us all, that we can make the road to recovery a lot smoother for us all. So thank you very much for having me. I hope that some of those words resonate with you, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Cheers.
Together to support this project. The work that Zac does can only be described as groundbreaking in terms of theory around treatment for men's mental health. It's something that is fundamentally different from what has been the established norms for psychiatric and psychological practices over the course of the last 120 years. So it is with particular pride that I'm able to be here to assist. It is something that, even if Zac is only 20% right, it's going to fundamentally change men's mental health many years into the future. And I want to congratulate all of you for your support of this, because ultimately I think that it is going to pay awesome dividends in terms of improvement to men's lives and to their mental health, and that can only benefit not only the wider community and society that we live in, but also the craft as a group of men. So well done and congratulations, and I'll certainly pass on your warm welcome to the Grand Master and Chairman of Masonic Care when I next see him. Thank you.
Fantastic fraternity. I make no secret, we have a guest here, James, tonight, who asked why I'm here, and I'm here because of these wonderful people that that I keep coming back to and spending time with. Just a wonderful bunch of guys, and you really value, I think, the current and former Grand Masters of this lodge emphasise the importance of social connection, and I think it's just a wonderful thing that we have that's very special in this particular lodge. I think we'd all agree with that. Yes. I think another thing that attracted me to this lodge, and I know it attracted many of you, is our charitable endeavours and our lodge motto. I love the fact that, and in fact I was asked by the visiting guest here tonight what the flower meant, and to me it's a very poignant thing, this concept of forgetting not the destitute and the poor. And I think that's a wonderful element to our particular lodge. It's unique to us in that sense, and with that spirit in mind, I volunteered earlier in the year. The City of Sydney does a volunteer homeless count of the homeless that occupy the streets of Sydney twice a year, once in summer and once in winter. It's a very sobering experience for us. We're all, I guess, to a greater or lesser degree, very privileged people in society, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity to actually get to the grassroots and help the people that need it most in society. Many of them who are men who have come upon hard times, and we all know from the craft the importance of treating your fellow man with greatest respect, regardless of their station in life and their situation. So with that in mind, I attended and volunteered for this night activity. It starts at midnight, it finishes at 3 in the morning, where you're given it's a very highly organised activity where you're given sectors of the city to work. You have an app that you have to download onto your phone, and it is, as I said, it's sobering, but it's also heartening that by contributing to this exercise, we're actually making a meaningful contribution to improving the plight of the homeless in our cities, particularly in Sydney, because that information, that data on the regrettably expanding homeless population is then channeled into resourcing, and I think that's one of the wonderful outcomes of this. But also, given our fraternal bonds and what's important to us as a lodge, I thought it'd be a great opportunity if people were minded to volunteer and you're really only giving up sleep at the end of the day. We could all perhaps meet for a meal down in Circular Quay or a restaurant at 11 o'clock, say, that the night that we'd all go out and do our volunteering. We get paired off into groups of 2. We go and do our duty to the community, and in fact our duty to our craft, and do a good deed, but also have a meaningful experience that we can all share. It's absolutely strictly voluntary. I can provide the information to all and sundry through Gunnar. And look, you're in, you're out. We understand everyone's got commitments. I was quite groggy the next day after doing my night service, but the feeling of satisfaction of knowing that I meaningfully contributed to the homeless really resonated with me personally, and I know it would resonate with many of you as well. So keep it in mind. That's all I have to say.